Hello and welcome to another episode of Sensational She-Geek live from Yancey Street. Today is Monday, June 7th, 2021, and this is episode 21A. As it is a standard 21A episode, we're going to start this week's Monday episode with the pull list, comic book pull list, things that I'm looking forward to reading on this coming week, which will be coming out for DC Books tomorrow, Tuesday the 8th, and for everything else, it will be coming out the standard Wednesday New Comic Book Day on the 9th. After we will go over the pull list a little bit, and there are some very exciting things coming out. I will talk about The Bad Batch episode 6, which premiered this past Friday, and a little bit about Sweet Tooth, which also premiered on Friday on Netflix as a whole first season. I'm not familiar with the comic, but I can tell you what my opinion is of the show so far from the first 4 or so episodes that I've seen. After that, we have some news about Spider-Verse 2, or I should say Into the Spider-Verse 2, and then, of course, a reminder about the Loki on Disney Plus show starting up this Wednesday. I'll start things off kind of the way I did last week, with my, if you're curious in finding me in other places, this podcast is, of course, available everywhere podcasts stream except Pandora. I'm working on that. And it's also available on YouTube, which is my YouTube channel, just Sensational She-Geek. All these podcast episodes are in a playlist in order if you would like to go back and watch them and not use a podcast streaming service. That's fine. I also have on my YouTube page action figure review videos. The last one that I did was the Lady Death from Coffin Comics Loose Collector, and the next one that I'm going to put up is probably going to be the Mezco Wonder Woman, who is supposed to be coming in finally at some point this week. Fingers crossed there, because it's been a long time waiting. So you can find me on YouTube. Anywhere you do listen to this podcast, please do like, subscribe, comment, follow, whatever the things are that you can do where you are, rate, whatever the options are. You can also find me on Instagram. My Instagram is Anna with the Comics, because I post pretty much just comics things, and sometimes I'll post stories of my food and my cat, because that is basically what my life consists of. And then you can also find me on Twitter. My username is Savage She-Geek. I do have a TikTok under Sensational She-Geek as well, but I don't really post that much, and it's not entirely comics, and it's not very interesting. It's just kind of me just putzing around. So check it out if you are interested in those things. Meanwhile, the next episode is going to be coming up on Friday. That will be episode 21B, and we'll go over the comic book pick list, which will be based off of this week's poll list that I'll go over here in just a minute, as well as going over the first episode of Loki, which premieres this Wednesday. And then it will continue to premiere on Wednesdays after that, so just be aware this is not going to be a Friday show, it is a Wednesday show. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the main chunk of the episode, which is, of course, the weekly comic book poll list, things that are coming out tomorrow on the 8th and Wednesday the 9th. If you are someone who would like to skip over my poll list and just get into the shows and the news, go ahead and skip to, you want to go to about 38 minutes and a half, maybe 38:45, and that will get you to just about where you want to be with me wrapping up the poll list and moving on to other things. So I'm going to start the poll list with, I know it was something that I did on my website, which is another thing I guess you can go find me on, which is sensationalshegeek.weebly.com. I used to write out my poll list, and I would do spotlights, and I kind of tried to do the spotlights, it'd be spotlights on representation is what it was, and I try to do that a little bit on the podcast, but it's a little bit harder to do verbally for some reason for me, but there was so many good ones this week that I wanted to talk about. There were a couple that obviously were more towards that representational side of things, so I wanted to start off with those comics, and those consist of The Double-Edged Sword, which is DC Pride #1, and then The Good Agent #2, Children of the Atom #4, and Far Sector #12, and then I have, a number of other comics that I'll be kind of briefly going over, not quite as in-depth as these first 4. So starting off with DC Pride #1. The reason that I said this is a bit of a double-edged sword is, in this being a single, only time it comes out all year, LGBTQIA, whatever you want to, whatever the extent of the lettering that makes you comfortable there, plus, the fact that they only do this once a year, it leaves it so incredibly open and low-key valid to be criticized as pandering, because you're only doing it during Pride Month, and you're only doing it, you're half these characters we're only going to see, and the characters who are going to be, we're only going to see in Pride Month, and the characters who are going to star in this, we have, there's several other that I'm not going to list because it was just a long list, but we have the Apollo, who is Andrew Pulaski. We have the character of Dreamer, who is not Beautiful Dreamer. This is the CW Supergirl character's first comic appearance. Her name is Nia Now, or possibly Nia Now, probably Nia. We have Alan Scott's Green Lantern, Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, Kate Kane's Batwoman, Jess Chambers' Flash, which if you remember, they were the Future State Flash, who was in a relationship with Andy Curry's Aquawoman, which was really cute, and I'm so mad that we don't have the two of them going on in something, because that was such a fun relationship. So we have them, then the Renee Montoya, who is going to be as the Question specifically, so that's really fun. Jackson Hyde's Aqualad, which if you remember, Jackson Hyde is pretty much based off of the Young Justice Aqualad Calderon, who was a really cool character. I know a lot of people liked him, and then they kind of put him in the comics as Jackson Hyde, more or less. And then we have Pied Piper, who is Hartley Rathaway, and several other characters who, are less big headline names. So, number of those characters, specifically like Renee Montoya, gosh, Aqualad, not so much Batwoman, although she does not have her own comic going right now, so a little bit Batwoman, definitely Jess Chambers' Flash, probably Pied Piper, and a number of the other characters who I'm less familiar with. This is really the only time they're going to pop up in comics in the year as like a main thing, and they're going to have a story about them, because they're not big names, and for a lot of them, they are, very obviously queer characters, and it rubs the fan base the wrong way, and DC's aware of that, so they don't really put them front and center until it's, Pride Month. And that, for obvious reasons, leaves it so open to criticism. And while obviously I'm thrilled that they do anything for Pride Month, I would feel so much better about their claims of being inclusive and everything like that if they were inclusive year round. You see what I'm saying? I do have to say one thing that I wanted to tag onto this since it's talking about Pride Month. There's a lot of talk. I know people hate. A lot of people really hate how during Pride Month, all the big corporations and mega corporations and things, they put on a rainbow T-shirt and they start selling rainbow stuff, and it all feels very fake. Those feelings are obviously incredibly valid, but I would urge people who feel that way to consider this. Take a Midwest Walmart that puts out rainbow cupcakes and sprinkles by the front door, so when people walk in, they see that, and that's what they're saying. Okay, here's our Pride Month display. We can say we're being representational. Okay. That's obviously exactly what I was talking about just a second ago, the corporations making it feel really fake for these people. Consider the Midwestern large family child who is secretly queer and closeted because their parents or family are incredibly homophobic. They walk into that Walmart, which is probably, their mother's favorite place to go shopping or whatever, and they see that rainbow stuff, and they feel just for a moment, even if it's secretly within themselves and they can't say anything about it, they feel like that is something put there for them. That is why those things matter at all. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there, since we're talking about all of this, quote unquote pandering. It depends on your perspective. And it goes the same thing for this, year round you have kids who probably, readers I should say, who probably don't feel like they have characters who include them, and then they finally get this. It's taking what they give you, and that's kind of, or it's being forced to take only what they give you, and that's kind of sad, but you have to remember the people who this is the only place in their lives where they get this representation, period. And that's why, that's why it's still important. It's obviously still important for a lot of reasons, but that's to counter the argument of it feeling fake. I would just like you to remember that. So DC Pride #1 is going to it has the main cover, which is by Jim Lee, and then it has a Jen Bartel variant cover featuring Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, who I might remind you are recently officially outed in the comics, by which I mean it's been made canon that they are and have been romantically together. So yay! That was, it was very quiet too. Nobody really talked about it from what I saw when that happened. I guess it was maybe because everybody was just kind of like, yeah, we know. You just are finally admitting it. So that's really awesome. I really hope that I get that Harley Ivy cover. I hate that term, but I just used it. Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy term. It's Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy cover by Jen Bartel. Woo, all wrapped up here. We also have, if you would like to know who is writing this, is written by, stories by Sina Grace, Mariko Tamaki, Steve Orlando, Vita Ayala, James Tynion, Sam Johns, Danny Lore, Nicole Maines, Andrew Wheeler. It also has a pinup gallery with art by Travis Moore, Chris Anka, Kevin Wada, Sophie Campbell, Nick Robles, and other artists, and there will be 6 profiles for DC TV LGBTQIA plus characters and the actors who play them. So really trying to make people who are looking for this kind of thing feel included, and I'm trying to see it from that perspective to be less negative in my life. I myself am a bisexual woman married to a straight man, so it's very hard to portray that in my personal life myself, but I am legitimate and you are legitimate, and so is everybody in this comic and everybody who reads it. So moving on to The Good Asian #2, I was so impressed with the first issue of this for a bunch of reasons. It's by, let's see, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna tell you this right now. I'm going to slaughter these names. It's gonna be a bloodbath, okay? But, okay. Here we go. Written by Pornsak, oh dear, Pornsak Pichetshote, with art by Alexandra Tefenki, and then cover by Dave Johnson, but as a variant cover by Annie Wu, which I highly recommend because the cover is kind of like a noir mystery movie cover poster thing, and it says, "A noir mystery featuring the first immigrants officially banned from America, the Chinese," which, first of all, is obviously true, and is not something that people really like to remember or do remember or whatever, but I think that's really awesome they're putting that on the cover because that is a huge part of what's going on in this. It's the talk of, you get the Edison Hark is his name. He is a detective, for obviously the police who are primarily, if not entirely, white. So he's trying to straddle the worlds of, he's a Chinese detective. He's trying to straddle the worlds of the white cops and his fellow Chinese living in America. In the last issue, he discovers that a family in Chinatown found a white man in a basement who had been killed in a way that was very obvious. It was done by a Chinese Tong. The Tongs were basically really, really brutal gangs that came to, or that popped up in the West Coast, especially in America, based around Asian immigrants and things. And so the Tongs are back. It was what that really meant. It's bad news for everybody because they are going to probably make the Chinese community look really, really bad with whatever it is that they're going to be doing, starting with having axed this white man in the head, because obviously society, or rather the country at that time, the community at that time, is going to be pro punishing people for having killed this white man a lot more than they would be if that was any other race of person that he had found. So I'm really curious as to what he's going to do to either hide or explain this situation, and obviously what the pushback will be once it all kind of gets moving. And the solicitation of this issue, if you're curious, it says, "The Chinatown noir keeps flipping the genre on its head as Edison Hart comes face to face with a killer and more suffering, lust, and soul than you'd ever imagine in Chinatown." I just really like this. Obviously there's a lot of anti-Asian sentiment in the US, if not worldwide right now. And this is along with a couple of other shows and things that have been out recently, The Warrior on HBO being one. This is doing a really good job of showcasing the Asian American history of, Asian and Chinese immigration to America, and how they sort of, built the West Coast, and then got basically kicked out. So I really am glad that this stuff is becoming more and more discussed, and I definitely recommend this series if you are at all interested in that kind of thing. Vida Ayala and Paco Medina's Children of the Atom #4 comes out this week, and they've got David Curiel on colors. We still have yet to find out completely what it is that's up with these kids. The obvious tease is that there's no way they're real mutants, but we're not really sure what is going on, that they have these powers. Sometimes it's probably their costumes that have the powers. That's my best guess right now. However, based on the solicitation, I have another theory. The solicitation says, "Dreams die young. Krakoa opens its doors for the Hellfire Gala. Sounds like the perfect opportunity for the Children of the Atom kids to visit. After all, Krakoa is their home, right? And what could stop them? Or rather, who?" So this makes me think of my original theory that they are actually some kind of genetically altered clones of some kind, creations of most likely Sinister, Mr. Sinister. So, I have no idea. They keep trying to go through the gates to Krakoa, and it keeps kind of rejecting them. In a weird way, they can walk through it, but like it just doesn't let them get there. Where I believe normally you just walk through it and not feel anything, and they get jarred as they try to walk through. So it's clearly they're not normal humans, but they're not being let through the gates. So they're not normal mutants either. I know a lot of people have kind of gotten frustrated with the series not having revealed that at this point. I feel like that will probably be issue 5. We'll get that fully formed, but at the end of this issue, we'll probably get like an 85% idea of, okay, I feel like that's probably what's going to happen, and then confirm it in the 5th issue. That's what I'm kind of hoping is going to happen here. This being another Hellfire Gala tie-in obviously is super exciting, and this is in the representation, just in case you were wondering, because Vida Ayala is a non-binary writer. They are absolutely phenomenal, and also, if you're a fan of Static Shock at all, the upcoming Milestone Static Shock series is going to be by Vida Ayala, so definitely check that out. And then Vida also does the New Mutant series that is currently going, which is fantastic. I know they've done some things over at DC, some anthology things. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I can't think of any of the stuff, but I know Milestone is obviously a DC imprint, so that Static Shock series, if you're a fan of the character or of Vida Ayala, or you're just interested in getting into the character, definitely pick that up because they are a fantastic writer. Moving on to the last thing that I have here for my spotlights, I suppose you would say, is Far Sector #12. This is the final issue of N.K. Jemisin and Jamal Campbell's Far Sector. It also has a variant cover by Jen Bartel, obviously just featuring Joe. It's something that I kind of caught on to way too late into the game for Far Sector was all the variant covers were different, more or less big-name artists doing just Joe in various ways. I don't know why. And then the regular covers were just Jamal Campbell doing, standard comic covers showing like a scene that may or may not be in the comic. And this is, I definitely recommend you checking out the variants, because there's been, you've had Mirka Andolfo, you've had Steven Sejic, who I can't pronounce. You've had Megan Hetrick. Now you have Jen Bartel. There's so many. I think we had a Chris Anka one or something. I mean, there's so many really cool variant covers out of these 12 issues. And it's good. I believe Far Sector started in 2019. So if you can find them still, these issues. It's also become a little bit harder to find the early issues because this series has gotten a lot more popular as the character of Joe has started popping up in a lot more things. So if you can't find the single issues, get it on trade. Far Sector is unlike any Green Lantern comic I have ever read. Currently for Jo, who is of course the main character in Far Sector, the Green Lantern in question, she is currently in like IRL, I guess, I don't know, in the comics right now, outside of Far Sector, she is currently in the Green Lantern series after having been summoned to Oa, the planet Oa, right, by the Guardians to be the new leader of the Green Lanterns. Oa was attacked, and the Great Battery, whatever it's called, was destroyed. The Great Battery, that sounds so good. But Jo still has her Green Lantern powers because of her ring, if you remember. Her ring is not powered by the battery on Oa, it's powered by her continual will to continue living through fear, which is why it was a little bit different. It's kind of self-charging. So she still has power in her ring, and Kid Lantern has power in her stuff. I don't honestly know shit about Kid Lantern. So Jo is gonna have to hide kind of in that Green Lantern series. She's kind of hiding in the wings, because whoever it is, they're trying to find out who did this, why they did it, and then have her come out and be like, surprise, we're not all gone, you know. I don't think that we're gonna see that call of her going to Oa being made in this issue. There's still a lot to wrap up here in this series, and we can pretty much just imagine and feel that in ourselves how that happened. We don't need to really see it, but you know, we'll see how it goes. I'll be really sad that we don't have any more Far Sector going forward, because it was such. I don't think it was even on purpose how well timed some of the points that they made for, you know, political and social justice things. Really well timed, but super great series. I'm super excited to read this last issue. Definitely check out Far Sector. It's an imprint of, it's a Young Animal comic, which is an imprint of DC, which is technically meant for young adults, I think. I don't see how this is that kind of series at all. This is one for mature minds, I think, for sure. That wraps up the, I guess, spotlights that I had for this week. We'll go into the rest of the pull list, which consists of, I'll just list them off really quick here before we go into them: Red Sonja 1982, Batman the Detective number 3, Magic the Gathering number 3, Carmen number 4 of 5, Maniac of New York number 5, Iron Man number 9, Excalibur number 21, X-Men number 21, and Wonder Woman number 773. I also had a note here about Rorschach, which is a Tom King series. It's very, very good. I'm not currently reading it. My husband is reading it. I already have 2 Tom King series that are going right now. It's Batcat and Strange Adventures. So I am saving Rorschach, getting all the issues, saving it until it's done, and then I'm going to go through and read all 12 issues at once, because I'm impatient, and I already have 2 Tom King series going right now, so I'm saving that for later, kind of in order to make room for another creator. So other than that, everything else, I have something a little bit more to talk about here. So let's start off with Red Sonja 1982. This is going to be by Amy Chu and Eric Blake. If you picked up Vampirella 1992 last week, you will recall that it was awful. I actually looked at reviews online, and based on the site that I look at, it had like a 30% rating across the board. That's really not good. But this is obviously a different creative team, and the plot itself sounds really interesting. Here's what it says from the solicitation. A mysterious killer android from the future hunts the legendary mercenary from the past. AI meets magic in that story that takes us, where else? Hollywood, Beverly Hills, and the City of Angels. Amy Chu returns to pen this gnarly, one-and-done, action-filled issue that will totally take you back to the summer of 1982. It's an epic struggle between good and evil, mohawks and perms, new wave and heavy metal. That obviously sounds way more interesting than the bullshit we had in the Vampirella 1992 one. Red Sonja being pulled to the 80s, while a android killer from the future is also pulled to the 80s. That is awesome. two worlds collide, and I am here for it. And we have Batman the Detective #3. This is by Tom Taylor and Andy Kubert. I was immediately impressed by this series. I keep saying it, Tom Taylor shines the brightest when he is writing what might be considered an Elseworld comic, something that is not necessarily canon, but is for the big two. I would also like to continue, if you have heard anything or know anything about what happened to that like medieval series he was supposed to do for Marvel, what happened to that? I was really excited for it and it never came out. But anyway, in Batman the Detective, the plot is basically Batman said screw Gotham and went to England to catch a group of killers who dress in basically white Batman suits to kill people that Batman has saved, saying that they never should have been left alive in the first place because they were meant to die. Really, really messed up plot, obviously, but really awesome. And the Andy Kubert art fits it really, really well. He draws the white bat suits really fun in a way that kind of almost reminds me of oh gosh, other artists. Frank Miller. I blinked so hard on his name just now. That's really sad. But yeah, it kind of reminds me, the way he draws especially the female bodies in this kind of reminds me of Frank Miller. And it's the plot being as kind of gritty and dark and different than normal Batman stuff. It's not even in Gotham, it's in England. It's different for sure. That kind of art style I think fits it super well. And once again, Tom Taylor writing something that's not a canon Bat story. I'm here for it, and it is excellent. The current Magic the Gathering series is by Jed MacKay, who I picked this up for because he writes Black Cat and is doing a phenomenal job, and I'm really glad that I did. I went in completely blind on, I know nothing about Magic the Gathering, completely blind. And he did a pretty good job of explaining things in the first couple of issues there, getting the action rolling with a very complex world, without really losing the new audience like me. So that's pretty impressive. He was able to do that for such a complex world and story. I love also the hidden planeswalker variants of this. I don't know if you've been seeing those at all. I know there's at least one for this week's issue, but there was probably like 5 or 6 for the first issue, and I think 3 for the second one. For the first one, I don't know who the artist was that I got, but it's one of the Planeswalker lady who has like the cool hat and the purple dress. Really, really stunning cover. And then the second one I got was for issue 2 was a Daniel Warren Johnson one. That was just wicked. You know Daniel Warren Johnson's art. You know that it's phenomenal, and super, super of his own style. So, and they're all Virgin covers. If you get these hidden Planeswalker variants, they're regular priced comics, but they're Virgin covers. You just kind of have to gamble and see what you're gonna get if there is more than one Planeswalker cover available for that issue. We also have Carmen #4 of 5 this week. This is by Guillaume March. He is writing and drawing and everything in this. This is its first time being printed in English. It was put out, I believe, as a graphic novel in Spanish previous to this. And this is now under Image getting published in English. And it's, oh gosh. I know I talk as often about connecting with series immediately when I pick them up, oftentimes when it's a creator from the big two going to a quote-unquote indie publisher and putting out their own kind of brainchild there. Those are the series that I love the most, and Carmen is one of those examples. It's Guillaume March, I already said, writing and drawing a story about a woman who commits suicide and the ghost who is supposed to bring her into the next life, kind of taking a few moments to teach her about the lessons of life and death and everything like that, and love, trying to give her a chance to have a better chance in the next life. In the last issue, though, Carmen ends up getting really mad at Kata, who is the woman who killed herself, because of her basically selfishness and what Carmen sees as her selfish thought process, and she leaves Kata here in the city alone to wander. At this point, Kata knows it all. She understands what's going on, at least all the parts that are relevant directly to her. I have the solicitation here as well. It says, in the 4th issue, we get a glimpse of Carmen's pitiless working conditions at Karma Corps, where she is seen as a troublemaker. Meanwhile, alone, Kata wanders the hostile streets and overhears a conversation that brings a crucial realization about what she truly means to Zisco. Overwhelmed with insights about herself and her past, she races to his flat in the hopes of seeing him. Zisco, of course, is her childhood friend who she has been friends with her entire life. Platonically, and was low-key in love with him for the past few years while he dated other women, and his most recent kind of situation was he had an affair with someone who wanted him to stop talking to her or something like that, and it's all involved with why she ended up committing suicide. And she is, it is good to mention, she is completely nude in this series, Kata, but it's entirely innocent. It kind of reminds you of like a naked baby was what it feels like. It does not feel sexualized, it does not feel exploitative. It's just really, really well handled, and God, it is just such a beautiful series with the themes as well as the art. Maniac of New York and Carmen, sorry, is that's the second to last issue. It'll be of 5. Okay. Maniac of New York is number 5 of 5. I thought that number 3 was going to be the last issue, so I wasn't like rushing to read it, and then it seemed number 4 was coming out, so I haven't read 3 or 4 still. But I really, really enjoyed the first 2 issues. It's kind of a funky, like almost watercolor style of the art, and it follows the story of a unstoppable serial killer ravaging New York City, and just the brutality that he causes, and now he's being kind of hunted down by these 2 female two female police detectives who have very different takes on how to handle his situation and how it's all going to turn out. So, granted, I am 2 issues behind, so that could have very much changed. Both those characters could have died. I don't know, I haven't read the last 2 issues, I'm sorry. Iron Man number 9 is also coming out this week. It's supposed to be the origin of the villains Korvac, and they're Christopher Cantwell is very public about the fact there will be no Tony Stark at all in this issue. I know he wasn't very much in the last one, if at all, and he is not in this one either. This is, like I said, written by Christopher Cantwell. This issue is probably going to be a snooze, I'm predicting. Nothing super excited to, get pumped up about, unless you really like this Korvac villain. I also want to note that Christopher Cantwell is currently doing that, like, Captain America, United States of Captain America or something series. They put in an indigenous Captain America and a Filipino American Captain America, and they're both dressed in, like, red, white, and blue flag theme stuff. That can't just be me who thinks that's no way in hell they would do that, right? What Native American would dress up in an American flag? And like, just doesn't quite feel right. I don't think that those people would want to rep America in the same way that someone like Steve Rogers would. Wouldn't really go along with them, but okay. I don't read that series if it's good. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, who knows. But other than that, Christopher Cantwell's his writing's pretty good. This Iron Man series has been really fun. I just feel like this issue's probably going to be a bit of a snooze. Excalibur number 21 comes out this week. It is one of 2 X-books, 3 if you count Children of the Atom, but it also goes alongside X-Men number 21, and I believe you're supposed to read Excalibur and Children of the Atom before X-Men. You can check the back now, it's not dangerous anymore. It used to be if you check the back for the reading order, it would be on the reverse page of the ending, so you'd spoil the ending for yourself. That was probably one of the worst editing decisions I've ever seen made. And they finally fixed that. Now the reverse page is just the back cover, so you don't have to spoil the issue to see where you're going to read the issue in the order of things. The solicitation I have written down here, it's by Teenie Howard and Marcus Toe with Eric Arciniega on colors. And here's the solicitation. Richter hates parties, even the nice ones, and with Captain Britain's return to a changed world, this one is looking to not be so nice. Excalibur's earth-shattering Hellfire Gala issue will change Krakoan diplomacy forever. Who knows if that's, legit or not. We know how comics are with these taglines and things they like to say. It's going to change things forever. But, this is something they've been leading up to for a long time, and maybe it will. I don't know. I guess that remains to be seen. And we also have X-Men number 21, which is exciting. It is the final issue. It is also one of the few that were highlighted in red in the back in that reading order list, which makes me assume that it is for some reason a lot more important. The last one that was highlighted in red was Marauders. And now it's X-Men, so do not miss those issues if you are keen on discovering what happens to the future of the X-Men, I guess. This is, of course, written by Jonathan Hickman, but what's really exciting is we have 4 different artists on this. I actually just had to count that. I couldn't do that in my head. We have 4 different artists on this, and there's some of my favorite comic artists, okay? We have Nick Dragotta, Russell Dodderman, Lucas Wernick, and Sarah Pacelli. Lucas Wernick is definitely my favorite out of that group, but we all know Russell Dodderman and Sarah Pacelli are fantastic. Nick Dragotta is really great, too. Hickman has the uncanny ability to assign artists to his own writing in a way that is perfection. And so the fact that we're going to have 4 artists on this is supremely exciting. I'm also taking a second to see if they have the page numbers out. Oh, it's just going to be 28 pages. Okay, I thought that was going to be a mega-sized comic. A little bit disappointed to see it's not, but, life goes on. In any case, this is super exciting, and I do have the very short solicitation here. I always sound like I'm slurring that when I say it. Solicitation. It says, the Heroes of Krakoa debut. It's a changing of the guards as the first X-Men team of Krakoa debuts. One era ends as a new one begins, and the handoff happens here. So this is obviously, we know I guess it's the whole X-Men team. It was something that I thought they were going to add Arakko mutants to, because, they're there now, and they had kind of made the point that you can have Arakko mutants on the new X-Men team, so I'm kind of disappointed that there aren't, unless there's some big secret that they're going to announce, in this X-Men issue that we don't already know. But the big, we have, it's, I can't remember who any of them are off the top of my head, but the most exciting one for me, you have Polaris, it's fine, I just remembered her, but the most exciting one for me is Laura Kinney as Wolverine. She's finally getting kind of her dues as a character who has earned this place, so that's a really fun and exciting thing to look forward to. And they're all going to have really cool costumes, I imagine, as they come out. It's either going to be in their X-Men costumes or in their Hellfire Gala outfits, so either way, super stoked to see that. It's going to be great. Don't miss it. Finally, to wrap up the pull list, Wonder Woman 773, honestly, whatever. I don't really care. I haven't read the last issue in its entirety because the issue before that I just did not like at all. But I can identify the reason that I don't like this. It's not the writing, it's the themes of what's happening, because it takes place in, Norse Asgard situations, which for obvious reasons is really messing with my head trying to read it as Wonder Woman and not as Sif, because we all relate that kind of stuff to Marvel, and they gave her an outfit that looks just like Sif's outfit. So I'm kind of hoping this is the last issue of this arc. I'm probably just going to pick up with the next arc, which looks like it's back to regular Greco-Roman themes. So hopefully she's back in a normal-ass outfit. And not this weird Norse shit. She's not from anywhere northern like that. She's Mediterranean, come on. So hopefully that'll be a lot better. I'm a fan of Becky Cloonan and more or less Michael Conrad. I don't really know much about him, but definitely a fan of Becky Cloonan, so I'm hoping that after this arc is through, the series will definitely pick up for me and I can read it again. This past Friday, we had the Bad Batch Episode 6 premiere on Disney+. I really enjoy this show. all the characters included. I know a lot of the audience doesn't really seem to like Omega right now because, from what I'm seeing, they don't really think too hard about her character and how she is a child out in the world for the first time, literally the first time, seeing pretty much everything for the first time. So, of course, she's going to be amazed at everything and want to have a lot of fun and explore and just be a child for really the first time in her life. I predicted it before, but she's probably going to be handled from the fans a bit like Ahsoka, where it'll take the first season or so for people to kind of get used to her before they are more on board with her character. More than likely, this will happen before she herself is more than likely showing up on the Book of Boba live action show, because remember, she is, I would say, basically Boba's sister, but she really is Boba's only sister that we know of. Yeah, the only female clone. The clones are all based off Boba's dad. Bada bing, bada boom. She is Boba's sister. And the fact that Boba Fett is getting a show and the timing of her character popping up here in the Bad Batch, I could bet money that she would be showing up in the Book of Boba live action show. She would probably be about Boba's age, right? If not a little bit younger than him. Let me think. She would probably be just a touch younger than him, if not the same age, so that is something to kind of look forward to, a potential reveal going on. If she does show up in the show, I have a feeling it will be the kind of thing like Ahsoka, where they don't really announce anything about it until you see her there, and you don't get to see any of the... Well, Star Wars is great at secrets, especially with their live-action stuff, so I do hope we see more of her. I do really like her character. I really enjoy all of the characters of the Batch themselves as well. I'm really bad about remembering all of their names and who's who, but I remember what they're like, and that's what's important. In this issue, or gosh, in this episode, I use those words interchangeably way too often. In this episode, the Bad Batch takes a new gig from the underground black market person Sid. This time, they need to go to a factory on the planet Corellia to rescue a tactical droid from the, I guess, separatists, which is headed to the furnace for destruction. You might recognize the facility that they go to as something vaguely similar to the one that Anakin and Padme almost died in several times over and over again in Attack of the Clones. There are a lot of similar near-death experiences in this factory as well. A lot of action, a lot of fighting robots and Robocops and droids and for their lives, all kinds of stuff. There were some fun bits of an episode of Omega getting to learn to use a laser bow. It's like a lightsaber bow thing, which is really fun. You get to have a little bit of the parental side of some of the characters come out in ways that we wouldn't otherwise ever see if not for Omega being a character who is around to kind of be parented. So that's really fun. We also got a return of characters from this most recent season of the Clone Wars. There are the Martez sisters, Trace and Rafa. If you recall, in the Clone Wars, they ran into Ahsoka, or rather, she ran into them, and they kind of got tied into this whole event together and had to kind of escape together. And so anyway, the Martez sisters are here, and they are looking for the same droid as our guys, the Bad Batch, but what they want is just kind of information, digital stuff that it has inside its head. Unfortunately, at the end of the mission, the batch fails. They don't get the droid, but the sisters do get the information that they needed. I have to point out, this is a very quick rundown of the episode, but I just have to point out, we haven't really seen what Crosshair and his side of the universe, have been doing, what they've been up to recently. And I'm wondering if that is because they are a lot closer to the Batch than we think. What we know right now, obviously, is that they are hunting the Bad Batch, so them not really appearing in it too much only leaves me to believe they're getting a lot more ground underway than we are thinking or hoping. The next episode of this show obviously is going to happen on this coming Friday, which is the 11th, and I will be talking about that on next Monday's episode 22A, which is going to be on the 14th. So look ahead for that if you are a person who enjoys the Bad Batch discussions. As I kind of preemptively said, I did watch a bit of Sweet Tooth over the weekend. It premiered this past Friday on Netflix as a whole season in one blow. I am, as I've mentioned before, completely unfamiliar with the comic. I did not even know that it was a DC comic until I saw the trailer, which said it was a DC comic. I guess it was probably like Vertigo or something, I imagine, or... I literally, this is how little I know about it. I know what one of the covers looks like that was passed around the internet when this was announced, and that's probably, it. So we watched the first couple of episodes on, I guess it was just last night, Sunday night, and it was, not terrible, but it wasn't really great in any way. Perhaps it was great based in the sense that it was great compared to the comic, or great in that it captured the comic. Again, I would not know that. I did not read the comic, and I don't really have interest in reading the comic. The cast, in case you were at all curious, Christian Convery as Gus, who is the little boy who is this like hybrid kid with the parts. And then you have Nonso Anozie as Tommy, I guess is his name, but I think all they've really called him so far is Big Man. He's not quite a magical black man, but it's close. It's close. You have Josh Brolin Sr. as the narrator. I did not know Josh Brolin Sr. was a person who was relevant. You have Will Forte as Pubba, which is what Gus calls his dad. And then I just encountered the character of Amy, who is played by Danny Ramirez, as she finds some kind of... Oh, it was a pig. That's right, it was a pig baby. It's a pig hybrid baby. So, the name... if I could just be petty about stupid shit for a moment. Pubba, I'm sorry. That just sounds like the stupidest... Who would want to be called that? I can't get on board with anybody being called Pubba. I think it sounds so dumb. I'm sorry. Along those same lines, some of the writing, but especially the narration, specifically mostly just the narration, suffers from thinking that it's deep and thought-provoking when it really just doesn't make any sense or is completely stating the obvious. Not deep or thought-provoking in any way. Like, for example, they use it like 3 or 4 times in the first couple of episodes, and it pissed me off every time. The narrator says something like, "Some stories start at the beginning. This is so-and-so's beginning." What? Some stories start at the... What? And what does the some story start at the beginning having to do with this being his beginning? You say some stories start at the beginning, it makes it sound like this one doesn't start at the beginning. Really, all stories start at the beginning, because wherever you're starting the telling the story is the beginning of the story, because that's how stories work. Oh my god, maybe I'm just petty as shit, but that was so annoying. It's not deep, it's not thought-provoking, it's just... it doesn't make sense, and it was stating the obvious at the same time. Also, the kid himself, Gus, I don't know why this dude starts calling him Sweet Tooth either. I clearly missed something. The kid is an idiot. This kid is stupid. Real dumb, real dumb. Total numbskull. His Pubba did absolutely nothing to prepare him for life without him. This kid is clueless. He does not know how to make food for himself. He does not know how to probably bathe himself. This child probably would die after a week on his own. This child is stupid, and it doesn't have anything to do with his being an animal. He's just dumb, and he can't take care of himself, and he doesn't know anything about logic or people. How did he get this old without his dad teaching him squat? Real dumb kid. I hate dumb kids. That sounds mean. I'm just not a kid person, I guess is what I should say there. This kid is an idiot, though. The plot of Sweet Tooth, if you're still curious at this point, is basically, some time ago, timeline, I don't know, half-breeds, or I guess they're called hybrids in the show, started being born that were children with, like, a lot of animalistic characteristics and features. Apparently, none of them can talk, except for Gus, I guess. And Gus had horns that he was born with. And his mom died, presumably during birth. Is it just me, or is that extremely messed up? That's not just me, right? But anyway, after all these kids start, I guess, appearing for whatever reason, there's some disease starts ravaging the world. They call it the sick. We have yet to really find out what it is or what it does. You just, if they find someone who is infected, they burn their house down with them inside. It's like, people are terrified of this. Apparently it's really awful, but who the hell knows what it is. So this kid, Gus, and his Bubba have lived in a secret, like, secluded cabin in the middle of nowhere his whole life, hiding him from the persecution that he would face from normal humans, because normal humans hate the hybrids because they think that they cause the disease thingy, the sick. And, which, calling it the sick makes it sound like the throw up. Excuse me. But yeah, that's Sweet Tooth. It's whatever. For the news for Into the Spider-Verse 2, we had a little bit of delightful announcement this week. Issa Rae has officially been cast as Spider-Woman in Spider-Verse 2. This is really exciting, because she is specifically Jessica Drew Spider-Woman. This isn't going to be any of the other ones. She is the first Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew. Issa Rae, I am a fan of. If you have not seen her show Insecure on HBO Max, I recommend that so much. It is phenomenal. It is great. I'm back to saying phenomenal a lot, aren't I? It's great. It's good. I liked it. I loved it, actually. And I'm really excited for a new season, which I hope is happening. I think I heard something about it happening. And of course, she's been in some other things that were just hilarious. She's a great actress. And I love to see, people who I love to watch on TV succeed. So this is clearly a big step for her. She is... I mean, this makes sense for the climb that you kind of, if you've been following her career at all, this really makes sense as the clear next step for her to move forward in her career. Obviously continuing what she's been doing before, but this is a jump. This is a now Marvel movie. This is not only a Marvel movie, this is a movie that's going to follow a Oscar-winning Marvel movie. So this is a big career move. I'm really, really proud of her. I'm also very curious how they're going to characterize Jessica Drew if they have cast Issa Rae. Issa Rae is obviously a Black American woman. Jessica Drew, in the comics traditionally, is technically a British woman. A white British woman, I guess you would say. Being white is not a cornerstone of her character in any way, so that's not something that I'm really caring about too much. What I'm more curious about is if they're going to have her do any kind of British accent, if her character is going to have ties to England or Wundagore or whatever you want to pronounce it as, which is where she was kind of transformed into Spider-Woman by Hydra people, which is also, where Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were kind of tied into their past. So people are theorizing then that they might be in it, and there's no way they're going to be in it. That would not make sense. It's a Spider-Man movie. And people are theorizing then also that she might be the live-action Jessica Drew. Once again, though, that doesn't really make sense. They've never done that before. I think, yeah, they didn't even do that with Ahsoka. They had Ahsoka go live-action and they cast a different actress. So, and that's the same continuity, too. So don't think that she's going to be the live-action Jessica Drew. I have no doubt that she would kill it if she was, but as it is right now, she's the Into the Spider-Verse Jessica Drew. I'm curious, as I said, about her origin, or about her accent, but that's also involved in her origin if they're going to possibly keep the part about her being born in England, having British parents, or if they're going to change it to have it be more something that maybe Miles will relate to. Then again, we had a whole nother universe Peter. We had Penny Parker. We had Noir, Spider-Pig, Spider-Ham. A lot of characters who Miles couldn't really relate to. Another thing to think about, as I kind of mentioned, Jessica was kind of created as SpiderWoman by Hydra agents. She was herself a Hydra agent in her first appearance. Marvel Spotlight number 32 in 1977. So, are they going to have her appear in this movie as her first version of her character, as a villain or a Hydra agent of some kind? Or are they going to have her as a fully formed Spider-Woman who has years of experience and background already? I don't know. I'm really excited, though. I'm really happy to see that Jessica Drew is officially starting her dive, I suppose, into being a Marvel movie character, I guess. This is not live action, so I can't say that. But I also wanted, while we're talking about Spider-Woman, it's kind of would be appropriate to mention the stuff that people are, things that have been in the news about Spider-Woman, right? I know there was the Olivia Wilde, I believe, produced or directed, I think directed project that she teased back in, I think it was August of 2020. And she basically teased that she was doing a female-led Spider movie, and the general consensus on that is that it's going to be Spider-Woman. No one has really denied that yet, so I'm assuming that's what it's going to be. We also have over at the Marvel Disney side of things, because of course the Spider stuff is all owned by Sony Marvel. The Disney Marvel side of things, we have the Secret Invasion show coming up on Disney Plus in a couple of years, which is going to be obviously following the Skrull secret invasion of the US, where they come in, or the world, I guess, where they just show up and they replicate people, more or less, and take their place. Now, Spider-Woman, alongside Elektra, is one of the main, if not the main, character who is very infamously replaced by a Skrull. She's actually replaced by the Skrull Queen, Javinda or something like that. Which is all very, very interesting, because we've had casting for Secret Invasion that includes Emilia Clarke, a woman who people are pretty much convinced, well, I guess she was cast in Captain Marvel too. People are pretty much convinced that she's going to be a Skrull. We have a pasty white actor who is probably going to be a pink Skrull, or a pink Kree, sorry. Pink, I mix those up way too often. And then we have a few other actresses who have been cast who could potentially be Skrull or Spider-Woman characters. So we're probably going to get a live-action Spider-Woman in the Secret Invasion show. Now, I know that that's two different things. The Olivia Wilde project and the Secret Invasion show are two different properties. However, it came out a while back that Kevin Feige is actually working with Olivia Wilde on that project. So it would not be too surprising if we have a character premiere on one side or the other and then trade to the opposite side to continue their story. And I wanted to just talk about that for just a second, because this Issa Rae as Jessica Drew stuff brought it all up into the news. All the speculation is once again doing the rotations, so just felt like that was worth mentioning. And also, I love Jessica Drew. Finally, Loki premieres on Disney Plus this Wednesday the 9th. I personally am very excited for it. There were a few new teasers and pictures that went out online recently that were really nice looking, made me kind of hopeful. I did not watch the teasers because, I watched the first trailer, I got a general idea of what the vibe is going to be, and now I'll just wait. I'm not somebody who likes to watch every trailer that comes out, because at a certain point it starts to feel like you're just spoiling it for yourself. I would rather just get a basic idea of what to expect, and then go in blind for the rest of it and have everything else be a surprise instead of spending... So you get to a point sometimes where you see so many teasers and trailers and behind the scenes things before the movie even comes out or the show even comes out that you spend the entire time watching this, you know, movie or show going, oh yeah, I saw that already. Oh yeah, I saw that already. Oh yeah, that's that part from the trailer. I hate that feeling. And that's why I have not watched any of the new teasers. I've just seen a couple of the pictures that people have screenshotted from them. And, you know, pictures that have been also published online by the official Disney Marvel people. So, additionally, some people, I'm not really sure how you become one of these people. I think you have to be like a professional reviewer or something, but apparently some people were given access to the first 2 episodes of the show, which I think they started talking about on social media this past Sunday, and across the board, it seems to be very positive, excited reactions in the same way that WandaVision is, but it seems to be a little bit less confusing than the first few episodes of WandaVision was for some people. Everybody seemed to love it. People about the whole pictures and everything. I guess it was a screenshot from one of the teasers. It was a paper that marked that Loki's gender was fluid. I would like to... It's Pride Month, and I know people got really excited about that, but that is not a statement about his gender identification or sexuality in any way. Loki can literally change to any gender or creature that he wants, so it is literally fluid. In the comics, he gives birth to Odin's 8-legged horse, or rather, she gives birth to Odin's 8-legged horse, which I think is actually based in a real-life Norse mythology story. If you know about that, let me know, because I can't quite remember. I know my sister would know, because she was all up in that stuff for a while, but I don't remember. But anyway, this is something that people are super excited for. Let them have it, whatever. I think everything we've seen from this, what little that I have allowed myself to see, is all very good news stuff. Also this morning, they announced a couple of action figures that will be coming for the Loki TV show, including Owen Wilson's character, which is probably going to sell out in seconds because, I mean, who doesn't want a goddamn Owen Wilson on their toy shelf? You gotta be nuts not to want Owen Wilson action figure. Who cares what the character is? This is not the character. This is Owen Wilson, my friend. I now have an Owen Wilson action figure. I want to be able to say that. Also announced this morning, just a little bit ago, Lucky Charms is apparently putting out Loki Charms. I'm watching the little announcement video they have now. It's like a 26-second video. I'm trying to just see if this is a real thing or if they're pulling our leg. But Loki Charms, apparently you have to go to mysteriouslydelicious.com at 11 a.m. Eastern, and you will be able to... Oh, okay, so it is a real thing, it looks like. Oh, it's just the box. It's nothing different on the inside. It's just the box. Whatever. I don't care about that. Whoops, I just started playing the sound. And apparently there's also... Oh no, I guess there was a Loki Charms shirt that a fan made some time ago, and that is now making the circulation again, so that's fun. So the Loki TV show, lots of stuff to look forward to. I will be reviewing it on Friday episodes as it goes out. It'll be 6-hour length episodes is pretty much what they've said everything is going to be going forward for the MCU Disney Plus stuff. So look ahead for the next 6 weeks and plan your Wednesday nights or Thursday nights, because I will be talking about it on Friday, so you got a little bit of time to cover it or to watch it before I cover it. And also kind of just looking at Twitter now to see if there's anything else announced. The only other thing that I'm seeing here that's relevant to what I like to talk about is Jensen Ackles. I watched The Boys. It was good. It's the kind of thing that I kind of have to watch in increments, though, and like happy stuff between the episodes, because it's just like, it's a bit much sometimes, but it's definitely enjoyable. And this is for season 3, Jensen Ackles, who I've been a fan of, obviously, because of Supernatural, because in high school I watched that, but, as many high school girls did, or do, I guess. Jensen Ackles was cast as Soldier Boy in The Boys, and they've shown the first picture of what he looks like as that, and it is, He's got some mutton chops. Didn't I don't have no idea what Soldier Boy looks like in the comic. I don't think I've ever seen him, but wow, this is pretty funny. If you could imagine like Hydra Cap, but possibly on a combination of meth and chewing tobacco, that's what he looks like. It's actually very, very Hydra Cap in the outfits. It's green and black and gold, so that's fun. Yeah. So check out, I guess, The Boys Season 3 whenever that kind of shows up. There was one last bit of news that just broke. Let me see. The article was posted an hour ago. However, to preface this, the article was posted by Illuminerdi, which has the shittiest reputation for posting things, because most of what they post aren't real, and it's like they were the ones who made up that stuff about, oh yeah, I swear we know that this movie called The Mutants is coming. That was literally just something they made up. There's been some other things like that, so be aware, be advised, this is from the Illuminerdi, but apparently, not only Namor and Namora are going to appear in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but apparently Atuma, who is an Atlantean warlord, will also be appearing in the movie. They also claim that Namor has already been cast as Tenoch Huerta. I have no idea what his action career is like before this. I have no idea if any of this is at all the slightest bit legitimate, but I figured I would go ahead and mention it there because as I'm scrolling Twitter to finish this up, I am seeing it here. So I gotta assume this is fake. But the fact that they have an actor who they have named, I haven't read the article. I don't want to give him a click because they're so full of shit most of the time. But it would make sense. It would make sense for Atlanteans to appear in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, because not only did Okoye make the brief tease that Atlanteans may exist in the MCU during Endgame, it would be connected. It makes sense because of their connection to Wakanda, kind of two secret societies. Black Panther, T'Challa, and Namor do not really have good blood most of the time. Namor is this headstrong king who he has clashes with a lot of people, and T'Challa includes one of them. They're also both on the Illuminati at Marvel together, which was like the secret dude society they had briefly. So, or not, it wasn't really briefly, it was just like they did terrible things. They're the reason that World War Hulk happened. So anyway, take that bit of news / rumor as you will. I will hesitate to say anything is real until I see it confirmed through an actual source, and the Illuminerdi tends to not have any kind of source or anything, so be advised, this may be super fake, but if it's not, he also would be the first mutant to appear in the MCU confirmed, but he could also just not be a mutant. He doesn't have to be a mutant. But anyway, they probably would do that. And if they bring the mutants in, starting with Wakanda Forever, that would be, kind of cool. The timing kind of makes sense because it's a few years down the line still. And they would probably have a little bit more information for Fantastic Four at that point. And I think that the mutants are going to be coming after Fantastic Four. Because I just feel like that's the way Disney Marvel thinks. In any case, this wraps up to this week's Monday episode of Sensational She-Geek live from Yancey Street. Thank you so much for listening to whatever portion of the episode you did listen to. As I said at the beginning, this podcast is available everywhere podcasts stream except for Pandora, including YouTube. So go ahead and watch it, subscribe to it, favorite it, like it, comment on it, rate it. Screw it, I don't know. Do the things that you can do, and so hopefully the audience continues to grow and we get more people listening on a regular basis, because that's the whole point of this. Right now I'm really just rambling into a microphone and hoping that somebody listens. So if the more confirmation I get that people are listening, the more we will, continue to do these episodes. Thank you once again for listening. I did all my social media stuff at the beginning of the episode, so I won't go back over that again. I will be back this coming Friday, which is the 11th, for episode 21B, where I will be talking about not only the Loki first episode, or is it 2 episodes they're going to do in one time? We'll find out on Wednesday, but I'll be talking about the first chunk of Loki that we see, and I will also be talking about my comic book picks, which are things that are new and interesting out of the comic book poll list from this past week, that I felt like it was worth mentioning, post reading everything. And once again, also a reminder that not everything that I do not talk about everything that I read, because that would take a long time, and I do not read everything that is good. Definitely not. I know there are plenty of things out there that are really good comics that I do not read because lack of interest or distaste for whatever reason, or I just don't have room to fit it into my comic list. And that's just fine. And yeah, if you do not have anything that you heard me talk about comic-wise that interested you, I definitely encourage you to go to your local comic book shop, wherever that may be, and see if you can get some suggestions from your local comic shop on what to read. They'll be very happy to take your money in exchange for some entertaining graphic media. So, in the meantime, have a splendid week. It's a bit of a tumultuous era for some people, for a lot of people. You know, the whole Mercury in retrograde thing. It's got some realness to it, I feel like, sometimes, because life is rough. So I hope that your week isn't so rough, and have a sweaty time reading comics when they come out on Wednesday, and I will be back to see you Friday. Peace.